Hi, everybody, and welcome back. This is Bob Noonan, and you have joined Stepping Out. It's our weekly podcast. Usually Roger McDiarmid's here with me. He's out of town, so I'm going to try to handle this alone. But, you know, Stepping Out, we created about 25 years ago to help deal with families and people in addictions and how addiction affects the entire family, and sometimes the entire family needs to heal from that. And so today, I want to focus more broadly on healing, because when we look at recovery, we kind of pigeonhole it just to drugs, alcohol. There's a lot of recovery. There's grief recovery. And a lot of us have gone through where we've lost a close family member. And a lot of times we haven't done the proper grieving. And so it could be 20 years after a divorce or after the loss of a spouse or a child. And they're almost in the exact same place with very little recovery. And my point of this broadcast today is to really look at our own agency. And there's a scripture that says, God can work all things for good for those who love him according to his will. It's hard to see in the depths of despair how anything good can come out of this. But today I have some very special guests, David Jeanine Williamson, and welcome to the show, guys.
Hi, Bob.
Hi, Bob. Good to see you.
Now, my first question, Jeannie, is I've known this guy. He was 14 years old and I was 15. I was one class ahead of him. So the real question is, again, why did you marry him?
Because he made me laugh.
And he still does, I see.
He still does every day.
I really wanted you on the show because we celebrated a birthday for you last Saturday night. And, you know, Dave was up there speaking. And as Dave always said, never hand him a microphone. But Davey did a great job. And you must have felt pretty honored, Jeannie.
Oh, I was. I was surrounded by all the people I love in my life. And what could be better than that?
Yeah. Well, you know, you have two sons that were there, Morgan and Alex. And you couldn't have two sons so different, but always so funny. And Morgan gave you a great tribute. So did Alex. But on the way home, I was thinking, you were introduced as the mother of two sons. And I was thinking, no, Jeannie had a daughter. And her name was Aimee. And Dave, that was from your first marriage to Vicky? That was her name, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And you're kind of high school sweethearts. And we're going to talk about debilitating diseases and how one has to kind of become an advocate for the family. And both of you became that. But there was a family disease that has been passed down, and your daughter Aimee got it. And we're talking about Huntington's disease. And Jeannie or Dave, for the audience that doesn't know, what are some of the early symptoms that may get misdiagnosed? Because we know that Huntington can last 20, 30 years, but at the end it's very devastating and they've lost all ability to do anything. Is that correct?
Yes, Huntington disease attacks the messages from your brain to your muscle and nervous systems. And in our daughter Aimee's case, her first symptoms were loss of balance. And as far as being misdiagnosed, people thought that she was drunk. She would go to clubs with her friends and they wouldn't let her in because they thought she was drunk.
Right. And I knew she loved to dance.
Oh yeah. And she loved music and bands. And she was the friend that always got her friends together to, you know, rent limos and go to concerts. She's always going to concerts.
Right.
Yeah, she certainly loved music.
Vicky, her mother, passed away at 49 years old, correct? She passed away at 50, and then her uncle, Vicky's brother, passed away at 49. The grandfather, Vicky's father, passed away at 55. Am I correct with this? And then your Aimee last year passed away at 49.10 months.
Right.
That's correct. And I would just add that Huntington's disease is really a birth defect. It is passed by the parent who has HD themselves. They have a 50-50 chance of giving it to your DNA. So Aimee, when she was born in 1974, was born with HD, but it doesn't rear its head until you're around 34, 35 years old.
Right. And you know what's interesting, Dave, is that you and I have had many private conversations, but, you know, I counsel obviously with many people, and sometimes I'll see this with people who have MS or Parkinson's, is that they start making strange decisions, and you're wondering, where is this coming from? Are they on drugs, or are they, sometimes they can put themselves in dangerous positions. And sometimes we have to look and say, man, if we had the proper diagnosis, we could have helped much sooner. Because, you know, I know that you both had joint custody of Aimee, you and Vicky. When did Aimee move in with you guys full time?
At age 7.
Age
At
7.
age 7.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. And then, but you had her every other weekend anyway then, right?
Yeah, every 2
Before that.
weeks. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, was it 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, Jeannie, that has to be hard when, you know, the mother is incapable of even taking care of herself. You're trying to raise this little girl. You don't want her to forget her mother, but you, for all intents and purposes, became her mother.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Well, just real quick, as you talked about the dancing, Dave, tell me, and in the audience, what kind of personality did Aimee have?
Well, Aimee was a very outgoing child growing up. She was very active, and even in her school years, she was very social. She certainly enjoyed having friends, girlfriends and boyfriends. As a teenager, you know, a young teenager, she enjoyed birthday parties. We were blessed. We have a swimming pool, so we would have some swim parties. She would have overnight gatherings where friends that have sleepovers. And Jeannie was an incredible mother because she created a very healthy environment for our 2 sons, but equally and more importantly for our daughter. And Jeannie raised Aimee as her own child. And even as Aimee got through junior high and high school and got her teaching credentials and got a master's degree in teaching and became a teacher, Jeannie also was a teacher. So these 2 girls related exceedingly well. And I remember Aimee making it very clear to Jeannie that anyone can have a child. That doesn't make you a mother. You are my mother because you have been here for me, counseled me, and helped share with me. And, you know, got Aimee as a girl and a teenager and a young woman, got her through that process like any quality mother would do raising their daughter.
And I know you had to be a great influence. I mean, you probably helped her in her first year of just doing teaching plans, things like that.
Yeah. And there was, you know, of course, I was a stepmom, okay? And her mom was in the picture. And so there's a little bit of resentment when David first brought me home and introduced me to Aimee, because she had gotten all the attention from her dad, and then dad brings me home.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so there was, you know, it wasn't all smooth sailing the whole time. But in fact, it got, you know, better as she got older. But it was,
But she,
yeah.
What did she get? She got consistency with you, and she couldn't push you away. You probably gave her space, but love conquers all, as the scripture says, and love never fails, but it doesn't win right away.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was thinking when I was at Aimee's memorial service, the thing that kind of broke my heart, she was 49, but she did want to be married and she wanted to have her own children.
Oh, yeah.
And that had to be breaking your guys' hearts too. But if we can get back to Huntington's, because I really want to talk going forward about how both of you had to become advocates. You know, Dave knows this, but the last year and a half of my mother's life, I moved her in with us and took care of her because my mom passed at 97 years old. Well, she had fallen and had a fracture. She had to have surgery on her hip where they put a pin in. Well, she was in assisted living at the time, had her own apartment there. And I told the doctors, I said, look my mom overreacts to medication, so in about 3 days, get her off the Vicodin or the Norcos. And this is what I mean by being an advocate. If I didn't go and pull her chart up and read it myself, they had her on 5-6 times Norcos a day plus Xanax. She didn't know where she was. And then they said to me, well, Bob, she's probably never going to walk again. I pulled her out of there. It took me 2 weeks to detox her. And within a month and a half, she was walking 2 miles. So,
Yeah.
Isn't that incredible?
Yes.
So you know what? Old Ronald Reagan says, trust but verify. I'm not going to trust any medical professional that I can't verify it. And I know that you and Dave had to learn what Huntington's was and how debilitating. And the disease goes on until it takes their life. But you see them decompensate so much over the years where they lose all their faculties, not able to eat, not able to drink, and really needing 24-hour care. Jeannie, I know that, well, I know the type A personality you are, and you looked up all this stuff, didn't you? You connected with some national groups, didn't you?
Well, in the beginning, yeah, because because I'd read up on Huntington disease. I knew her mom died of Huntington disease and that Aimee had a 50% chance of inheriting the gene from her mom. So, and Aimee didn't look it up. She wasn't curious about it. So I did. And I recognized the symptoms much earlier than Aimee even knew she was exhibiting the symptoms that David and I talked about it.
So you saw it before anyone else did.
Yeah, and we had decided, well, should we talk about this with Aimee? And we had decided not to because we knew it was a terminal disease and we wanted her, I'm getting emotional. We wanted her to live the fullest life she could. And her not knowing that she was exhibiting symptoms was better because she can live like she didn't have Huntington's disease because it's a kiss of death. There's a high rate of suicide within the disease because of that. And it wasn't until later, she started showing symptoms when she was 34. It wasn't until she was 38 when she started falling while she was teaching at school. And she started showing intellectual decline. It was even hard for me to not tell the school. That was a decision we made. I almost felt guilty because here she's teaching children, not to tell the school that this teacher has Huntington's disease. But she had fallen enough that they wanted her to be checked. So at that time, we went and had her diagnosed by a neurologist that she had the disease. And I'm the one that did all the research on it. She said, Mom, I don't want to do it. I don't want to know anything about it. If you could do all the research. So that's what I did.
And I would like to just add that once it was identified through the neurologist that she had in your DNA, if you have 36 HD repeats, you have Huntington's. Aimee had 42 repeats. So she had a more aggressive, if you will, Huntington relation. And so we sat down with Aimee while she was still quite cognitive, and we decided to do our pre-plan for Jeannie, myself, and Aimee together. And the three of us did a whole plan on what do you want at the end of your life? How do you want to be cared for? How all of those questions, while she was, what I'll say, coherent.
Yeah.
And she was able to explain to us, keep me alive, keep me happy, keep me healthy, but keep me out of pain. I don't want any pain. I don't want to be a burden on anyone. At the same time, as long as there's hope that there might be a solution, she wanted to help. She got involved with UCLA. She got involved with USC. She went every 90 days for 2 years in the HD program, where they tested her and took benchmarks for over 2 years, both facilities.
UC Irvine.
Irvine and UCLA, excuse me. It is those two schools and those HD departments. And she said, I hope that the information I'm providing will help find a cure. And more importantly, others in the future will not have to go through this disease.
Yeah.
So that was Aimee's cause. And she became an ambassador for the UCI Irvine Huntington's disease board. I was a member of that board. And she chaired, and that year we raised over $40,000 to help find a cure. And she was the ambassador of that entire event at UC Irvine.
Well, she has her dad's and mom's fundraising skills.
Yeah.
Right.
And dedication to service and to help others. Yeah, apparently.
Right. Are they any closer to finding a cure for Huntington's disease?
I'm going to say no, but I don't want to overly sound negative. I'll say it this way. When Aimee joined the program, we were told they would have a cure within 2 to 5 years.
With stem cell research.
Stem cell research, and they were giving Huntington's to rats, and then they were curing the rats. So, but not a human yet. Those were the trials that she was in. But the end result was, even 5 years later, when you would think the answer would be 1 to 2 years away, it was still 2 to 5 years away after 5 years. So as it stands today, they do not have a cure. They have more understanding. It wasn't until 1974 that they even identified that the HD DNA in your genome. They didn't even know what it was until 74. And Aimee was born in 74. So even hospitals weren't testing a child born for Huntington. There was no reason.
And that's an issue. I mean, we went to a lot of support groups with Aimee. We'd go, and they'd separate us into those that had Huntington's disease and then the caregivers of them. We're sent into 2 groups and do that, and so we could be free to talk about it, and she could be free to talk about it, without hurting our feelings or anything. And she when we did that, a lot of people, we found out that a lot of families that have a family member that has HD, especially when they're thinking of having children and the possibility of passing it on to their children, that they didn't want to be tested to find out if they had it or not. And Aimee didn't want either, but because of her teaching position, we were forced to do it. And then we found out she definitely had it. But a lot of people with HD
Right.
don't do that.
Now, if you remember, Aimee was in assisted living. Was it down in Mission Viejo? Because I would talk to you guys almost every Sunday on your trek down there on the 5 freeway. And, you know, you guys, that was your Sundays to go spend it with
Oh, yeah,
Aimee.
because she lived down
Sundays
there.
to
Yeah.
go spend it with Aimee.
Uh-huh.
And
We
I
called
think
it our
what'll-
church, our Sunday church.
that was your Sunday church.
Yeah.
Jeannie, what I want you to talk about, because you have a keen eye, you know how you want, and David, you know how you want people to take care of your child. And some places will tell you they're doing certain things, and they're not. And I think it's so important to, if you're going to be an advocate, you got to be around there and watch the staff, watch what they're doing. Are they really caring? And with somebody like Aimee who's losing the ability to even communicate, it becomes much more difficult to find out what's going on. Did you find that there were places that you had to move her from to a better place?
No, we didn't. Well, in the end, we did. She was cared for at a family care home, very beautiful home, and had Filipino caregivers that were just awesome. But I had to really watch. I had to be an advocate for her. I was there. We would go once a week. I'd go twice a week, sometimes 3 times a week. And I watched every single thing they did to her. I watched when they bathed her. Because I wanted to make sure that she got the best care possible. I had one of the employees, the owner of the facility, fire her because we put cameras in the room and watched the night care people take care of her. And they weren't doing their job. They weren't like turning her. They were supposed to turn her in her bed every couple hours. They weren't doing things like that. That was part of their care. So, oh yeah, I had lists on the walls. I was probably a terrible person.
No, but I
as
think this is for you and Dave to those listening that are maybe caring for somebody who's incapacitated. What are the kind of some of the rules you set up that this is the kind of care we want?
You did a whole schedule.
because I found out that they were because she can't, it was so sad because she couldn't talk for herself. And we tried, we were thinking of getting machines where she could talk by making movements, bodily movements. Because of the chorea associated with the disease, she couldn't control her hands. She couldn't even control her eyelids to blink and communicate with us. So I was her only way of communicating with the world. I found out that they were putting her to bed like at 4:00 in the afternoon and wouldn't wake her up till or go into her room to get her up for the day till 8:00 in the morning because they would get other people in the home up before Aimee. So I made them change their whole schedule. But if I hadn't been doing that, that's the kind of care. Now they gave good care. They adored her. But when it's easier for them to change schedules and do things like that.
When the patient can't complain.
Yeah. And so I was
Exactly.
there.
I
Yeah.
always found it important when my mom was in the hospital or assisted living. My brother spent 8-9 months. He almost died, but he died 8 months later. But I was constantly going in, and I would go in and watch shift changes. I wanted to talk to the shift before and say, okay, now you're the new shift. What are you going to do today? And I think that they were so happy when my brother Rick was moved to another facility.
Yeah. Got to do it.
Yeah.
And I will say,
Well, he lost.
I was just going to add that Jeannie, we word processed a document for a 24-hour period because an HD patient likes consistency, repetitive and consistent.
Right.
So we put a whole plan together with the owners of the facility. The facility could max with 6 patients, and because of the caregivers, it was 1 caregiver to 2 patients. A 2-to-1 ratio is unheard of. A state facility is 1 to 32. So you can appreciate, and some of the homes are 1 to 16. Well, if you are a caregiver for 16 people, when it comes to bath time, you got to get 16 people bathed and pushed and shoved and dried. They get 15 minutes, not an hour. And sometimes you'll forget that, boy, a nice hot shower and washing my hair and just relaxing and unwinding and hearing some music. These are things that we knew that Aimee enjoyed. So we had a complete schedule of when to wake up, when to eat, when to get bathed, when to take a nap, when to have lunch. We had different outfits for the different days, even music, the music that was played every day. We had 7 different CDs, one a day, different tracks,
Right.
so that we could keep her mentally in the game.
Yeah, because even though she couldn't talk for herself or do anything for herself, she was still there mentally. And because we had the camera in the room, I would witness the caregivers say coming in to give her a bath, especially when they had shift changes or new caregiver.
Yes.
And they'd come in the room, they wouldn't even talk to her. And they just come in and give her a quick, whole routine, give her a bath, sponge bath, and they'd leave and they wouldn't even talk to her. And so I'd watch this, and David called it, they came in and took care of her like they were changing the tire on a car. And
It did the process.
yeah. And so I had to personally meet with every time they had a new caregiver, I would meet with them. And I'd go down my list. The first thing on the list, always at the top in big bold letters, was talk to her like a human being. Come in and say good morning. Say, how are you, Aimee? What's up today? And talk about yourself, because she doesn't have anybody to talk to. So talk about yourself.
You wanted them to treat her as a valuable human being. And the fact that she's not communicating anymore, they're not seeing a human being there. But you see, she could understand in her encapsulated body what was going on.
Exactly.
And just talking to her is stimulus. Makes our heart jump for joy, a little stimulus.
Yeah.
But, a lot of times, sometimes parents will lose their child to an accident. It happens real quick. They're gone. I've seen where cancer comes when I did some work over at City of Hope, oncology with children. Very, very sobering. I would go in one day and I'd see, I'd pass a room, there's a little toddler. She's sitting on the bed staring in the hall, and mom and dad are holding her hand. The next day I'd go in and she was gone. With Aimee, you had years and years. I think there's a better chance to prepare yourself. And in doing that, you took action. You see, I have a lot of people that come into me and they live with regrets. Mom or dad died or a brother died, and they go, I wish I would have done this. And I always tell them, if you do what I believe God puts upon our heart, you won't have regrets when this person passes. And you know you've done everything. The pain is, if we didn't love, there wouldn't be any hurt. Because we loved so much, we live with the hurt of not having that person. And so this idea of, it took her, about 16 years? started suffering?
12 years from the first
Okay.
time. Yeah, till when she, yeah.
Well, she was diagnosed at 34, right? And she died at 49.
Right, but the first symptoms were 4 years before that.
Okay.
I started seeing symptoms.
Yeah, but okay. So it took 12 years for this to run its course in her. And, the dedication you had as parents, because, it's almost like having an adult who's become an infant again, and to go and to know it's never going to get better and still have the dedication and the commitment to do what you two did. I want you to talk to those out there that find themselves in that situation where they have an adult child or a child that's going to die, or they're in the midst of this, and they want to believe, that there's going to be a cure, there's going to be something. And I always try to give hope. We all do, but sometimes that cure doesn't come, as with Aimee. What would your counsel be to those people that are just struggling right now? Because I know you and Dave are very close, and you bore one another up. I mean, you could cry on each other's shoulders, right?
Oh, when we went down on Sundays, then we'd see our daughter in the state that she was in, and knowing what a beautiful soul she was, and vibrant and beautiful. And yeah, we would cry. We'd cry almost every Sunday on the way back.
You're right. Right.
But for advice to other people, and that's why we're doing this with you, Bob, is because we hope we can give some hope to other people that are going through this situation.
Yes.
We knew that at a certain point, because even though they were doing the stem cell research and she was in these clinical trials, meanwhile, when they were telling us, oh, we should have something in 7 years, she was going downhill fast. And there was a point when we realized that she's never coming out of this. So as parents, you just want to make her life the best you can, as long as you can, till the very end. And that's why we just treat it every day. Even, how in hospice, they provide a chaplain that'll cut, and he came every 2 weeks. And Aimee was not religious. She was, no, not at all. So he would come and he says, well, do you want me to even come? And I said, yes. But talk to her. And I would teach him. I had this book that I would make all the caregivers read. I made the chaplains read, and it was Aimee. I told them about her and everything she liked and loved to do, so that they could just talk to her as a human being. And fortunately, the chaplain she had loved, no doubt, that an alternative music. That was Aimee's too. He was from her same era. And so he would play her music for her, and they talk about the music and just be a friend to her. And just be a friend to her. But I would do that with every single caregiver she had. I'd make them read that book and learn about her, and know who that they were caring for. So I did that.
With couples that lose a child, especially when the child is younger, the divorce rate's really high. Something about even being around the spouse reminds me of the child that died. What made your relationship so strong during this time?
You want to answer that?
Well, my take is, I'll say, through a lot of grace, that I marry a woman who is my best friend, my wife, the mother of my 2 sons, our 2 sons, and the mother of my daughter from a previous marriage. So there's a lot of respect that here's Jeannie loving Aimee as though it's her natural daughter, and mothered her and disciplined her just like a mother. I mean, it's not like she didn't call Aimee out if Aimee was out of line, like any parent would do. But for me, it was just a real level of respect. And I will say we did divide up a little bit from a standpoint of I got on the executive board of Huntington's disease at UCI Irvine. Jeannie got all the education and documentation and handled all the administrative paperwork and all of that. And then we would come together and say, okay, what do I need to know to do what I need to do? And so we worked as a team, if you will. And we realized that
You were partners in this.
in our case, this 12, 14-year period of Aimee, I'll say degrading, where she lived in her own apartment and she had caregivers 12 hours a day and was alone 12 hours a day. But after about 6 years of that, even Aimee said, I can't do this anymore, Dad. And I explained to her that I need you to be understanding. And I would repeat myself every other day for 2 weeks that if we can't do this anymore, we're going to have to go to the next level. We're going to have to find a home where you're going to live. And we're going to have to meet the new caregivers, and we're going to have to educate the caregivers. And the good news is Mom and Dad will do whatever it takes to make certain that you are taken care of as we would take care of you. And the dignity that Aimee got, because she had caregivers changing her, washing her, changing her diaper, caring for her. Her mom and dad could be her best friends, not the caregiver directly.
Well, you know, it's so important. I see a lot of caregivers that have their husband or their sons or their daughter in the home that are declining. And I've always told caregivers, you got to take care of yourself. You're no good to anybody else if you aren't taking care. I mean, simple injuries, like you can't lift a body that can't help, you're going to ruin your back. You know, that's why they have hospital straps that pick you up, you know. They have these and cranes over the bed kind of thing. And
I was just going to add to that, Bob, that I've always told people, first you take care of yourself first. It's not selfish to take care of yourself first. Then you can take care of your family. And
yeah,
then
it's only
you
selfish.
can do your work, your job. And if you have spare time, then you can do service work. But it is not selfish to take care of yourself, because if you can't take care of yourself, you can't give for someone else.
Yes. And then unfortunately, I see when that happens, there's a lot of resentments that builds up towards the patient. And
Sure.
so, you know,
This becomes a drudgery.
well, I know you two very well, and you guys have a great support system. I saw all the women that you've worked with, Jeannie, and, you know, all the people that, I mean, being a teacher for years, and David has a huge, great support system too. How important is that?
Huge. If I was all alone and didn't have friends around me that I could talk about it, I don't know. What the decision to put Aimee in under a caregiving facility and not bring her home and take care of her ourselves was huge for us, because she's our daughter, and she's our daughter. But I knew what, you know, at the time I was a teacher. I had my own career. I had her brothers I was taking care of also. And I knew what it would do to me if I brought her home. Just visiting her once a week towards the end. I mean, when we would cry driving home, I know if I was with her 24/7, I would just be so depressed watching my daughter decline before my eyes. So we made the decision, and it was easy in a way, because Aimee really, when we were going to the support group, she really liked talking to other people. It could be a grandmother, a young person, about, because she liked the attention of other people, and she really liked 100% of the attention all on her. Part of the disease. That's part of the disease that we learned. But yeah, but yeah, like David said, we could have caregivers, and this is very important. We had long-term care insurance. When we first realized that she had a 50% chance of getting the disease, we didn't know if she had it or not. We got long-term care insurance, and at that time, they didn't,
Yes.
yeah,
Oh,
they
yeah.
didn't ask us, is someone in her family have it, they would ask, it's cancer, heart problems, all the standard. And Huntington's disease wasn't one of the things that they would ask you about. So we were completely honest. We didn't even know ourselves if she had it, but we got it, and it was a lifesaver because it paid for the facility, and
It did allow to
yeah,
give her the incredible care
yes,
that you would want for any patient.
yeah,
You guys are real models, because you said something important, because some people will take the person home not having the knowledge, even knowing how to take care of this person, out of guilt. And I always tell people, you can't make this decision out of guilt. You have to make what's best for this patient, what's best for our daughter, what's best for our father, what's best for our mother, and then that frees us up to go and visit and be part of their lives, as you said earlier, Dave.
yeah,
Yeah, well, and I'll point out too that if you're caring for a parent and you bring a parent home, your mom or your dad really don't want you changing their underwear and changing their diaper and wiping them and all of those kinds of cleanliness issues.
Yes. I did that, David.
I understand that, but I'm just saying they don't want that. When they have a caregiver, that person was hired and is trained to do that, and it allows them to have their own dignity, so that when you are with your family, it seems to work very well. And if she wasn't getting the care that
You said something important for our parents. It's about dignity. And, I hear that word bounced around a lot in medical care. We want to give dignity. And sometimes I don't see that they're doing that. Like, working in hospitals as I have, I've seen a whole downtrend. For instance, there used to be in a lot of homes, RNs in there. Well, now you may have one LVN over a bunch of CNAs, certified nurse assistant, and that level of medical care has really fallen. And I've seen that. And so for the people that are going out, you have to ask the questions. Per your staff of LVNs, how many RNs are on? Because the RN will talk directly to the doctor. And you have to know that chain of communication.
the chain of command,
Yeah, yeah.
and equally so, do the caregivers understand the patient and the patient's diagnosis? And we found very few people knew what Huntington's was. So by Jeannie putting together a book, a 3-ring binder on Aimee's past, pictures of Aimee growing up, we even had her diplomas on the wall. We wanted people to know that she was a college graduate. She had a master's degree in education. You are not talking to a 3-year-old
Well,
at
you're
48
right,
years
David.
old.
You have to know these things, because a lot of assisted living homes, they over-medicate so they don't have to give a lot of care. They just
yeah.
go
That's
visit them a
important.
couple times a day.
Absolutely.
And they're over-medicated. That's why I pulled my mom out. Hey, we got to wrap it up here. You guys have been a wealth of knowledge. I think those that have listened to this, their hearts have broken for you, but you've given them hope also. One last question on that grieving thing. Did you guys ever go to a grief class?
No.
You probably read many books, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you see, you had a support system that you could talk to all the time. A lot of people don't, and so they bottle it in. And they don't talk about things. And I think that's the most important thing is find somebody you trust, or a few people, and make that your support system.
And we had, like you asked, how were we prepared when she finally passed? Because we had all this time to prepare ourselves. It's almost like because we watched her die before our eyes. When we moved her out of her apartment into the house that she's living in, we had to go through all her stuff. It's almost like she died that day. You know, we were going through all her stuff and moving her.
Personal belongings,
Yeah.
etc.
And then we just had all that time to prepare ourselves for the day. So it wasn't as traumatic.
But you see, those are multiple grievings over the loss.
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, loss of independence, that keeps declining and declining until there's no independence at all. But hey, you two, I love you. Thank you for your time.
We hope that we can help anyone that has to deal with loss.
Hey, God bless you guys, and life goes on, and I'm rarely around two people that enjoy life more than you two. God bless you, and you give a lot of hope to a lot of people.
And bless you, Bob, your mission in life is to help people, and you invited us here so that you could help people by bringing us on your show, and we're glad you gave us this opportunity.
Hey, God bless. Okay, for Bob Noonan, Stepping Out, we'll see you all next time. God bless.